I was looking at the top 10 jobs according to AI that are most likely to be disrupted. And it said things like drivers, with McKinsey estimating 30% of them will be automated by 2030, customer service, representative and call center reps, which I used to be.
Same.
50% headcount reductions after AI rollout, according to some estimates. Some go up to about 80%. I actually saw a tool on my timeline yesterday that is real human voice, indistinguishable from humans, that's just launched and is causing a huge stir. So that they're thinking that will replace even more of the customer service roles. I did speak to the CEO of Klarna. TLDR, as he said, we currently have 7,000 employees. We're going to be able to get down to 3,000. He said after summer because of AI, and we'll be using our existing team members that are in customer service roles to do more sort of bespoke, white glove, VIP
stuff will go up. In fact, Jevlin's paradox would suggest that a lot of the dehumanizing repetitive work will go away. But actually, if there are AI bots that are really good at setting appointments for a VIP human person to have a conversation, then that work will go through the roof. Because one of the reasons that people, like right now, most companies wish they could have more VIP conversations, but the appointment setting, they don't have a lot of the low-level appointment setting stuff happening. And if the appointment setting stuff, if the cost of that goes to zero, then the affordability of the VIP level treatment becomes much more feasible.
Retail cashiers, admin assistants, bookkeepers, and payroll clerks, sales, development reps, warehouse workers, with Amazon and others reporting that robots now assist or replace labor in roughly 40% of fulfillment tasks. And that Boston Dynamics video, which I'll put up on the screen, shows a humanoid robot working in a factory.
What's nice about some of this is that many of the jobs here are jobs that a lot of people don't actually like doing. They are repetitive and dehumanizing. They're late night, they're early mornings. So potentially, provided there is a Jevlin's paradox that something happens that's more fun, more humanizing, more interesting, more VIP, more chaotic, and all of that sort of stuff, it could be a very positive thing.
Fast food workers.
I used to be a fast food worker.
So did I in McDonald's. I think it was 2 days.
I did 2 years at McDonald's.
Oh, really? Because this disruption is happening at record speeds, where do all these people go? Because even in examples, they could do AI labeling. They need to be upskilled and trained. And I worry that the rate of disruption isn't going to meet the rate of creation of new opportunities. And I really do worry about this. I think people wonder why I have these conversations on this podcast over and over again. My philosophy to having conversations on this podcast is basically, I'll say to my team, I'll say, Steve, do you want to have a conversation about, this particular subject, the gut microbiome? And I'll say, we've covered it. Which basically means I'm no longer curious.
Yep.
I have the answers. I know about the trillions of gut micro, and I know how the gut-brain axis. Let's move on.
Yep.
I keep having these conversations about AI because I feel like I'm getting no good answers.
Okay, so here's what's interesting. There is something which you have, which is this elite mindset, which is how do I organize society so that everyone gets a job and everyone does stuff, right? And this is the trap that many people have fallen into. And it's actually at the root cause of socialism. So the root of socialism is that I know better than everybody else, and I will come up with a way of running society so everyone gets looked after. That's the top-down mindset. The crazy mindset that actually works is if we give people education and training and we make opportunity transparent and we actually let people know what's actually happening in the market and we give them price signal data, they will self-organize and reorganize, and they will have a bottom-up revolution, and they'll find amazing, interesting things to do. The money is in the economy.
You think that's true?
That's called capitalism.
I know, but
capitalism works.
In the UK, let's take the UK as an example, because we're all just screaming at each other about brown people. We're not talking about the real alien, which is like the fundamental economic disruption of AI.
Yeah.
There's a report that came out yesterday showing that unemployment in the UK has hit...
It's 25% up, and youth unemployment has grown by more than 25%.
It's like 16.1% of people that are between 16 and 24 are unemployed now.
Yeah.
And we're still not talking about the economy. We're talking about brown people.
When people feel that they can't get ahead, they look for somebody to blame. And this is historically consistent. What is really happening is that the government has become so big in the economy. The UK government is now 45 to 50% of all spending in the UK economy. That's essentially a socialist, or it's getting socialist. Every amount of government spend is a market distortion. regardless of what it's for, and I'm saying there are plenty of things governments should be spending money on, but all government spending is a market distortion. It's not market driven, and there is a monopoly on spend, so therefore it is a market distortion. The more government spending you have, the more market distortions you have.
What do you mean by market distortions?
So a market distortion is where the markets are not really able to function because there is some big organisation like the government spending money and taking away price signals and taking away the realities of the market. So a great example is what happened with student loans. So rather than in a capitalist society, what would have happened is that young people would have heard, oh my goodness, there's a shortage of bricklayers. Have you heard that bricklayers are making £300 a day? Wow, I would love to make £300 a day. I'm going to go be a bricklayer. Guess what? It's a bricklayer's apprentice. I'm going to go and be an apprentice. I'm going to get paid to learn this trade. And there would be a market-driven pull towards being a bricklayer. A young person would get a job at a bank and the bank would say, hey, can we please pay for you to do a finance degree because we need more people who've got a finance degree and we will actually pay for you to go through that. So that's a functioning market. It's basically based on needs and wants and things that are needed within the economy. What the government did is they created what's called a market distortion. They said to all young people, we are going to give you as much lending as you like to go out and take whatever university courses you want. There's no price data, there's no signalling data. It's just if you want to borrow £50,000, you can go to any course. If you're really interested in the breeding habits of butterflies, go and do a master's degree in that. And happy days, right? You could. It doesn't matter whether there are jobs associated with it. You must go and get a university degree. So they set up an entire system that pushed young people to go get £50,000 worth of debt and do a degree that no one was asking for. That's a market distortion. We now have a bubble of over £280 billion worth of debt that will probably never be repaid. We have an entire generation of young people who are saddled with this debt that takes away all motivation. There's no point in working because they pay such high taxes. Every single time they make a payment to pay off their student loan, they pay $600, but the debt goes up by $650. Right? It's absolutely insane. And that's a classic example of governments meddling with the markets, creating a market distortion, and now we have hundreds of billions of dollars worth of people who are very angry, very upset because they are trapped in a student debt that will not go away for decades.
Rishi Sunak, the former Prime Minister of the UK, wrote an article last week, which you might have seen, where he said that if the UK fails to fix its productivity problems and seize the AI opportunity, the country risks becoming a tourist theme park.
Yeah, not even a good tourist theme park. There's not a lot. At least a lot of other countries have beaches and mountain ranges and ski resorts, and the UK doesn't have a lot of that. We have to let markets function. The issue that we have, and this is actually a trap that you're falling into, is trying to figure out top down how do we organise society, which is socialism, right? The top down approach of trying to fix this problem for everybody is the socialist mindset, and it doesn't work.
If
right?
you were the Prime Minister,
yeah,
and you can see the future that's coming,
yeah.
What would you do?
So the number one thing the UK needs to do is reduce government involvement, right? We need to get the government spending down less than 35%.
Where'd you cut?
Right? So the key thing that you need is that there's loads of places to cut, right? Like getting involved in trying to do wind farms and solar farms and all of this 40 billion and all this sort of stuff. Preventing companies from accessing natural gas that is just sitting under our feet is a crazy thing to do. Spending 20 billion trying to give away one of our islands to someone is a crazy thing to do. There's all sorts of crazy things that the government is spending money on. Bureaucracy is a crazy spend. Do you know the Birmingham City Council, they wanted to migrate from SAP to Oracle.
What's
and
that?
From a CRM system with SAP to a CRM system with Oracle, a software system, right? So they wanted to migrate from one software system to another software system. They thought that it would cost £19 million, which in itself is a very high amount to migrate from one software to another software. It cost £220 million.
So are you saying that you think the government should just do less stuff?
They should be involved in less stuff because what's happening right now is that there is so much government spending that the benefits for succeeding are being eroded by taxation and people are just leaving. See, here's the thing. With capitalism, the only benefit of capitalism is the creative entrepreneurial process, right? That creative entrepreneurial process that produces amazing companies and amazing innovations, and it creates stuff that is better, faster, and cheaper for everybody's lives, that comes from capitalism. But if you take away the incentives for doing that, you essentially don't have that happen within your country. And then as soon as you don't have that, you don't have any economic growth. And then as soon as you don't have any economic growth, all you're left with is the debt. And the debt erodes your economy and kills your economy, and you don't have any growth to counterbalance the debt, so you enter a downward spiral. And that is basically the same socialist scam that happens over and over again everywhere that it's tried. You're essentially trying to get rid of the worst elements of an economy, which is cronyism and extraction, but that happens under socialism. You just simply lose the one thing that doesn't happen under socialism, which is the creative process, the entrepreneurial process, the innovative process that creates new value in the economy. So what we've currently done in the UK, we've taken away all incentives for people to be in the UK and to succeed. I'm sure you know people personally who are no longer in the UK as tax residents, who should be in the UK as tax residents. They liked the UK, they enjoyed living in the UK, but what happened? They left. You and I had a debate with a guy a year ago, and he said, oh no, people are not going to leave the UK. We can tax them as high as we possibly can. We can ramp up the taxes.
Gary Stevenson.
Yeah, Gary Stevenson. And Gary's prediction was that rich people are not going to leave. And he also predicted that the house prices are going to explode and that we're going to have these horrible house prices. What's happened? Housing market has gone flat because people are leaving. The economically active producers, providers, they have left in their droves. And the economy is now in real trouble. If you ask anyone who has left, what do they tell you is the reason that they left the UK?
Well, it's one of two things. It's generally, I think they feel a sense of pessimism about building their future in a place that feels like it's on managed decline to some people. And then the other cohort will say tax reasons.
High taxes, and it just feels like you can't get ahead.
And also the third I'd say is they think that talent is elsewhere. So they think they have a better chance of getting capital and talent employees if they move to America or Dubai or whatever else.
Yep. And if you go to Dubai, low taxes. And if you go to America, lower taxes, more opportunities. So we are living in a time where, you know, a lot of countries are exploring this socialism thing. And unfortunately, it's a scam. But even what's interesting is even your mindset is we need to fix this top down as opposed to fix it bottom up. With AI, we need to give people price data, price signals.
What does that mean?
It means that they need to be able to see what's happening in the economy. A young person needs to know that someone's making a lot of profit. They need to be able to see there is opportunities to do this, there's opportunities to do that. They need to also see, oh, this is no longer an opportunity. So this was great. This was a great opportunity 5 years ago, but it's not such a great opportunity now. A lot of young people are going to discover, oh, wait a second, I could get into house renovations because a lot of houses need renovating. And they go, oh, cool, I've heard about someone who's making money doing that. I'm going to go do that. So that's just having access to price data.
When I look back over the last couple of years, data from Henley and Partners, in 2023, it says 3,200 millionaires net left the UK. In 2024, 9,500 millionaires net left the UK. In 2025, projected 16,500 millionaires are expected to leave the UK, which is a record outflow. And predictions that have not yet been published warn that the trend is likely to continue into 2026. When you think about this, like, I guess there's two questions, which is, why does this matter? And then the next question is, what should I do about it on an individual level?
So why does it matter is because 1% of people pay for 30% of the bills and 10% of people pay 60% of the bills. So if those people leave, then those bills get passed on to everybody. We've seen this here in New York. So at the moment we're in New York, and this socialist mayor, Mandani, has basically just come out today and said we need to put everybody's taxes up because we need to spread the bills of the city across all the residents because people are leaving, right? So he wants to propose a 9.5% tax rise on all people who own homes, regardless of the value of those homes. So essentially, when rich people leave, they leave behind a lot of bills that everybody else has to pay that they were previously paying.
In his February 2026 preliminary budget, New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani proposed a 9.5% property tax increase to address a projected $5.4 billion budget shortfall. This proposal acts as a last resort alternative to his preferred plan, which was increasing taxes on top earners and corporations to fill the revenue gap.
He promised free stuff and he promised that everything was going to be paid for free. Nothing is free. Someone has to pay for everything. If the rich people leave, there's not people who can pay for all the free stuff. And that's what New York is suddenly discovering. So why does it matter? Because rich people essentially create the growth. They are the high taxpayers. Whichever way you want to say it or discuss it, it is a small group of people who pay a lot of the taxes. You don't want those people to leave the economy. What do you do about it? The number one thing to do about it is you need to identify the opportunity that's right for you. That's called founder opportunity fit. What you're looking for is an opportunity where you can earn money no matter where you are in the world. If you're somewhere that you don't perhaps like being for any reason, you can pick up and move. So the best kind of businesses and the best kind of opportunities at the moment are the ones that are not geographically limited to a particular city.
It says that in New York, personal tax income remains pretty strong, but business tax collections have started to soften. Recent reports show they are roughly 378 million lower than initially projected as business formation slows down in New York.
Yeah. It's the same story. We've seen this over and over again. Socialism is like a hot stove that every generation has to touch for themselves. That essentially every generation of young people, they think they've discovered something new. They think, oh my goodness, what if we just go to the rich people and take it off them and give it to everybody else and we'll redistribute the wealth? And even though it's been tried for 180 years since Karl Marx came along, it just doesn't work. It is a disaster and it ruins economies over and over and over again. And trying to offer lots and lots of free incentives without any productivity gains is a downward spiral.
What's your bear case for the future of AI?
Well, the bear case is that we have something called the Engels pause. The Engels pause is what happened in the industrial age, where for 50 years, all the wealth went to the top because of the new technology of the industrialization. When we went from agriculture to industrial age, that new technology displaced so many people that there were revolutions off the back of it.
I mean, this is going to be even faster and more disruptive.
Yeah, it's very, very disruptive, yeah.
I said this once before in a conversation I had about AI, but I went to my friend's accelerator in San Francisco, which used to be a software accelerator. And when I walked in there and went around, he has, so hundreds of entrepreneurs in there building stuff. I was like, why is everyone building robots? And he was like, because, and he showed me this, I said this on a couple of episodes ago, he showed me this frying pan, which had a robotic arm attached to it. And he was like, cooks your dinner for you.
Yeah.
And he was like, so 10 years ago, the expensive thing wasn't actually the robotic arm. He was like, all these pieces, they've been around for decades. He goes, the expensive thing was the intelligence. He goes, now it costs cents. Back then, it would have cost me tens of thousands to buy the intelligence that would know how to make your omelette for you. So he goes, what you're seeing now is we're actually in the Renaissance age of robotics. Yeah. And I looked around everywhere. I was like, what's that machine over there? He goes, that makes your perfume for you in the morning. Yeah. You tell it how you want to smell today. It has all the scents loaded in, and it'll make you, and you can see
anything that is currently got a Bluetooth in it will have intelligence in it. So your toothbrush will tell you whether you've brushed your teeth well enough, and it'll probably be the thing that books an appointment for your dentist and all that sort of stuff. So,
I'll go even further. I'd say even things that don't, like my bed sheets, my pillows, my mattresses.
And they will all have access to agents and all that sort of stuff. My bear case for AI is not about the intelligence side of things. I generally believe that more intelligence means a better society. There's never been a situation where lots of intelligence was a bad thing. So I think intelligence has a pretty strong bull case to it. But financial bubbles are a real thing, and I've lived through a couple of them. And what I've discovered is that they have widespread, massive impacts on all sorts of areas of society that you wouldn't even expect. And my real bear case for AI is that we overinvest in these data centers, we cause a massive financial collapse, and that we wipe out pension funds. I don't know if you know this, but they're packaging up the debt for these financial assets, and they're selling that to pension funds as private credit. So all of these huge data centers, what they're doing is paying 6% above inflation as a packaged up debt. They send it over. Now, when they go to the pension funds, they say, this is backed by Google and backed by Microsoft and backed by Amazon. And then they say, it's a 6% financial instrument backed by these huge companies. But unfortunately, the mathematics of spending $600 billion a year on something that only has a 3 or 4 year lifespan, every single time in the last 180 years that we've spent more than 3% of our economy on an infrastructure build out, we've ended up with either a massive recession or a depression.
Did you hear the Anthropic CEO? For anyone that doesn't know, Anthropic is one of the large AI companies.
Claude.
Yeah, they're the maker of Claude. Did you hear what he was saying the other day in the article he wrote about his concerns?
Yeah. I saw at Davos.
Yeah, he wrote it just after he left Davos. Daria Amede.
Yeah.
He said, humanity is about to be handed almost unimaginable power, and it is deeply unclear whether our social, political, and technological systems possess the maturity to wield it. I believe we are entering a rite of passage, both turbulent and inevitable, which will test who we are as a species. We are considerably closer to real danger in 2026 than we were in 2023. If the exponential continues, which is not certain, but now has a decade-long track record supporting it, then it cannot possibly be more than a few years before AI is better than humans at essentially
everything.
The same AI-enabled tools that are necessary to fight autocracies can be turned inward to create tyranny in our own countries. There is an alarming possibility of global totalitarian dictatorship. AI is so powerful, such a glittering prize, that it is very difficult for human civilization to impose any restraints on it at all. And he said this remarkable thing about, in that essay, about imagining if there was an island with 50,000 geniuses on it.
A billion
geniuses on it.
Yeah.
What would happen to society? And I think there's, I don't know, like, do you know what? I hope I'm really wrong about this, but when I think about this idea that there's 50 million geniuses on this brand new island, and I ask myself...
I'm willing to work for free.
When one learns something, they all learn something.
Yep.
You just take that as a first principle. You go, society is going to be very, 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 very different. And maybe all of the advice we've been giving for the last 5-10 years about how to be successful, how to be an entrepreneur, how to succeed in business, maybe...
It's for an economy that no longer exists. Yeah, we're going from a fundamental industrial age economy to an AI age economy, right? That is different. We will have different economic models. We also have a problem of aging. For all of human history, we've had a small number of old people at the top and a lot of young people at the bottom, and we now have 65% of all wealth in the economy is held by people over 65. And then you've got the financialized economy and the government economy, which is inflationary, and that they pump money in as stimulus. So while the entrepreneurs are making everything cheaper, even free, the governments are actually inflating the economy and the financial system's inflating the economy slightly faster than productivity gains, right? So what's happening is the entrepreneurs bring down the cost of everything and the governments and the financial system top it up with new stimulus. According to the rules that the government runs by, as AI creates huge deflationary impacts, they can actually just inflate the economy like unbelievably. They can pump huge amounts of stimulus into the economy. So this whole idea of UBI, universal basic income, it actually stacks up from economic fundamentals, basics, principles, where you can actually, provided you're getting the productivity gains where things are costing zero because of AI, you can actually just pump money into the economy and give money away for a period of time while we're going through that transition. Hopefully that prevents massive craziness from unfolding. And hopefully, as a result of having a huge amount of intelligence, we find really interesting, fun ways to structure society and do things. We're not necessarily leaving utopia. We shouldn't necessarily be grieving the loss of shitty jobs and grieving the loss of dehumanizing, low connectivity jobs. We have ruined the way that we pair bond. We've ruined the way that we do community. We've ruined the way that families run. We've got people working 2 jobs just to survive. Like, that's not something to be grieving the loss of. We need a new system. Maybe AI is going to actually give us the breathing room that we need to actually create a system that gets us back to a little bit towards the way that humans have flourished.
Are we going to go towards UBI?
It seems like in the short term that would have to be the case.
So Sam Altman's over here working to build OpenAI, working 24 hours a day, let's just say, theoretically. We're going to have to take some of his hard work away and give it to, theoretically, we're going to have to give it to someone who is maybe not working.
Yeah.
And I mean, Sam Altman, funnily enough, he actually backed a study called Open Research in 2024 that looked at the impact of UBI, and it showed that recipients who received UBI, which is money basically given to them, worked fewer hours and earned less money than the control group. Instead of using the freedom to find better jobs or improve their education, many participants simply dropped off the workforce or reduced their hours for leisure, resulting in a net decrease in household income despite cash payments.
Yeah. Humans want stuff to do. We need a meaningful struggle. We need something that we're up to in the world, and that is a very difficult thing. The likely thing that I think will probably happen is that these data center investments will be so catastrophic financially that governments will have to bail them out, and then the governments will have to own all the data and all the data centers, and then the tech companies will have to essentially pay royalties back to the government over long periods of time to manage this kind of infrastructure build out. So you'll have to have something where the government actually owns the primary asset, and that is the thing that pays for the UBI. I mean, we're kind of theorizing and just kind of...
We're going to find out.
We are going to find out.
This is going to be on the internet someday.
The mathematics bend reality at about 2029. The financial engineering required to make this thing work, you need something like a 45 times growth in the number of people paying for subscriptions and the number of businesses. Like you take something that is over the last 5-10 years, there's been a product that has gone exponential, which is Ozempic and GLP-1 weight loss drugs. The amount of spend to build out and satisfy that demand is actually pretty minimal. Those companies spend about 20% of their revenues building new factories to produce new GLP drugs, right? So CapEx is about 20% of revenue. We're seeing with the AI stuff, CapEx is hundreds of percent of revenue, right? So it is a financial feat that we've never attempted before.